Manpower is slowly ticking down. People are training. The National Union for the Total Independence of Angola has defeated the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola. Oh dear. Alright, how's the Air Force looking? You're fully trained. You are not, and you're still going. You're fully trained, you're not, so you're still going. Okay. We do still have an aircraft shortage, but I think that's because so many are training. Das Reichskommissariat Kaukasien defeated Andegea in a war. Decisions available. Invest in construction. 100 million for a moderate increase in GDP. 45 days of construction speed. I don't know what moderate increase means. Is it worth 100 million? Deficit to income ratio is 45.9%. Yeah, that's a problem. No, we're not doing it. Military austerity has ended. 67. We still have a year. So we'll continue the military austerity, seeing as it doesn't cost anything. And we're also going to drop the construction more. That leaves us at 4.2 billion. This is actually going to be really difficult to overcome. Huzzah! Fear and Loathing in Los Angeles. Earlier this month, noted author and founder of Gonzo journalism Hunter S. Thompson released his new book, Fear and Loathing in Los Angeles. Set in a surreal alternate historical universe with few rules, the work is a multi-pronged satire on the other more serious alternate world works, as well as a scathing critique of the culture of the United States in the 1970s. Thompson spent dozens of pages going into the minutiae of each divergent point. Off-colour vignettes with the overarching story of that detail the world in this novel ended up differing from our own. Irreverent and often nonsensical, these stories detail ridiculous episodes such as a Japanese doctor in Unit 731 accidentally trying a hallucinogenic drug of his own concoction, leading him to power drop an army of drugged up ghouls on downtown Tokyo. While critics are somewhat split on these stories, casual readers tired of the oversaturation of the fiction market with cheap, overly serious alt history novels have found them a welcome, if odd, diversion from the norm. Linking these various episodes together, Thompson has strung out a vague semblance of a plot in his alternate LA, mainly consisting of cheap allegories to attack contemporary American political culture. In one memorable scene, a street gang closely modelled after the Yokiites beat up a demonstration of old yuppie bigots, Nixon supporters referred to as bloodthirsty freaks, all while inebriated Thompson watches with juvenile glee. These critics and readers alike are split in the novel. Most, at least, concede it is a scathing and effective critique of the current literary and political climate. It's different, I guess. I think at this point it would be the most efficient to build your way out of debt. I mean, that's what we've been working on, and the deficit kept growing. Which is why I'm now turning everything around. I mean, we're still constructing. We still have crazy production efficiency. But I need to start slowing stuff down. In the halls of glory. Oh, we can also do more. Down again. Down again. What are we at now? 26. So half of our consumer factories are now being used. I think one more, and then we call it. Construction spending is now only 1.5 billion. Deficit's 2.5 billion. So hopefully when the poverty rates are overcome, that's going to be the shot in the arm that we needed. I am, however, going to invest in construction some more. 100 million, worth it. Come on, poverty rate, when do you finish? Next month. Okay. Good. Meanwhile, Army of the Rus. With a new principality should come with a new army. Although it's proven its superiority over our foes during the unification of Central Siberia, our military is still woefully outdated in nearly every respect. From the way it is organised down to the equipment our soldiers are to use. Before we can seriously consider any kind of plans to reunify the nation, our military needs to be brought up to modern standards. This process will be long and not exactly easy, but a fully modernised military would be the envy of the king's many foes, and make reconquest all the more simple. I really hope that the tax can overcome this. I'm a little bit worried that we may have kept the debt growing for too long. Huzzah! I wasn't expecting to have to shrink my industrial expenditure this much. Because we've really had to shrink our industrial expenditure. Yeah, we've got 6 factories left. Admittedly, this is just the civilian side. And we have a very large stockpile of weaponry. And we can turn this on whenever we need to. But we have a 56% reduction in consumer goods right now. Decisions available. Returning expatriates. That's manpower. It's only a slight GDP increase though. It's only 30 million. That one's actually quite cheap. We do kind of need manpower. Do it. Go on then. Decrease in poverty. Here it is. So our economy right now, 2.49 billion. Our income, 9% tax rate. We get a revenue of 10.6 billion. Thanks to our greater poverty relief efforts as well as the expansion of our civilian economy, the poverty rate has decreased significantly enough to be notable internationally. As our government congratulates itself for its efforts, the first official state projections on the impact of this improved popular prosperity are filed, stating that people are now able to access superior goods, economic opportunity shall be greatly increased, and our workforce shall be capable of greater and greater feats. So monthly population growth goes down, recruitable population goes up, stability goes up, war support goes up, construction speed goes up, research speed goes up, factory output goes up, dockyard output goes up, and most importantly, taxes go up. 2.4 billion. It's what we need this to overcome. 10.6. No, he gave me 200 million. Is that it? Shoot. Oh, I wish I could increase taxes, but it's not something you can just tweak. It's a thing that the game itself does through focuses. Pensions are the most expensive part of the civilian spending. I wish I could reduce the pensions, but I can't. And income tax is now 21%. I can't believe that was only 200 million. I had so much riding on that. And we still have a deficit. This is really bad, actually. I think I'm going to have to squash the civilian. There we go. 900 million deficit. We have no more civilian factories, however. The men stood in rigid rows, their uniforms clean, with their rifles resting in their arms. General Ivan Yakonlev's men were clearly attempting to make the best impression possible. General Yakonlev walked down the rows, discussing the state of the army with the King Rurik. Back when we first donned the crown, Your Majesty, these men couldn't even line up straight. Now look at them, disciplined, clean, some of the finest men in the Urals. Yakovlev's words had some merit, with Rurik having seen the men performing a training exercise. They performed admirably, a far cry from the ragtag desperate men Rurik had left after Andreev's betrayal. Of course, there was still room for improvement. The equipment they still carried was outdated, albeit some progress had been made in the last couple of months. Rurik brought up these concerns, amongst others, and Yakovlev largely agreed. Yes, the situation regarding equipment and uniforms is less than desired. The men can lose morale easier than I like, and I'd say we've improved greatly, Your Majesty. If we ignore the issue of equipment, actually our equipment's quite good. It's just the planes that are old. Everything else is dead new. In which my hands are tied. How does Your Majesty feel about the state of your army? They seem more disciplined. You've done good work here, Yakovlev. With our eyes upon seizing the eastern shores of the motherland, I hope you may continue to show such excellent results. I'll try my best, Your Majesty. Alright, so we can do Learning from the Siberian conquest, which will give us land doctrine. We've already got all of the land doctrines, that's a bit pointless. Or the army professionalism will rapidly improve. I like the idea of the professionalism. Also getting the better leaders might be good, although we've also got a lot of leaders already. We'll do this one. In decades past, officers got their command based on the significance of their background, whether it was their noble blood, wealth, ethnicity, or loyalty to the party. Such foolishness is one of the many factors that caused the humiliation of the Russian Empire in the First World War, and then the Soviet Union in the Second World War. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past, for to do so would surely invite disaster as it has many times before. In King Rurik's newly formed military, advancement will come from merit alone. Our officers will have to prove themselves to be capable leaders in the field of battle, and only then will they be given the privilege of a promotion. With the aid of battle-hardened, experienced officers to guide the troops, our armies will undoubtedly march from victory to victory. Mordred wishing you could bring in a 45% tax rate. I mean, that would overcome this very quickly. I'm only a billion short. Only. So I just need another 15, and then I can drop the construction budget again, and that should do it. Each drop was, what, 2 billion? Something like that? Deficit! No, come on! Seriously? We still have a deficit. Come on, I want to get rid of the deficit. The next one would do it. And the problem is, I think I can only do it once more. We'll be down to 10% utilization of our consumer goods. But we're already not building anything, so... Rudimentary composite ceramics complete. Alright, let's keep on getting the upgrades. Putting a piece of fused silica glass between two rolled steel plates is almost doubles the armor effectiveness of the steel plates. This will help our tanks shrug off enemy fire much easier. Better industrial expertise. New training programs motivated by a need for better workers and managers has resulted in industrial workplaces that are more exact, efficient, and smart in their production methods. New technologies and equipment are important, but they never trump the human element, which is driven by practice and education. These new training programs, motivated by national vocation programs and investment in worker safety programs, have driven our workers towards true perfect industrial efficiency. When they clock in, they become machines of the highest order. That is the goal. So we've gone from nascent industrial base to an experienced industrial base, and our production efficiency growth has just gone up massively. As is the cap, actually. So our military industry is going to be cracking. That's one thing that we're not reducing. This is purely civilian. Running a deficit is not actually a big deal until you're reaching multiples of your GDP. True, except for the fact that even dropping everything as low as I can and I'm still not coming out the deficit, that's a problem. Meritocratic system. Royal pardons or train new officers. I mean, it's not either or, it's both. Let's train the new ones. I like this bonus. The key to building a professional army lies in its officers. We'll need plenty of them as we continue to expand the military. Lucky for us, there is a whole new generation of young officers just waiting to begin the journeys towards becoming the generals of tomorrow. Therefore, it is high time for the military schools of the Central Siberia to open their doors once more, so that the prospecting recruits can be tutored in the difficult art of waging war. The new recruits are to be trained to the highest possible standard, for the King's military officers are the best of the best, consisting of the cream of what Russia has to offer. Not only will this lead to a better-led military, but may also result in unorthodox new strategy innovations as well. And once I'm, gotten rid of a lot of this debt, I'm paying a lot less interest, and then we make more money overall. And then I can balance the economy at last. As opposed to doing everything into build, build, build. Right, here we go. Please give me a surplus. Yes! 200 million! A year! Okay. With just 10% Oh, the civilian industry is still active. We are now making money. Freaking finally. I think I do want to do that one more time because we're not producing anything anyway, so actually having construction utilization is pointless. Do the armor upgrades from previous models count for the current ones? Yes, they do. Because it's not changing the variant. It's just an upgrade to armor. Any general armor. Now we just need to keep this up for a decade. Yeah, tell me about it. And 200 million. Still going to take a long time to get rid of 19 billion. Train new officers. Issue roll pardons. Yeah, alright then. Our various enemies during the Wars of Unification fought well indeed, and they have many generals amongst them who are definitely a cut above the standard career officers. Unfortunately, the fact that remains they were our enemies, and most of them now sit in military prison for the crimes against Rurik and his people. Rurik has floated the idea of issuing pardons towards specific officers who once served in our enemies. In exchange for their freedom, they must take an oath of loyalty to the king and serve in his armed forces. Should His Majesty choose to go down this route, our forces will be bolstered with several more talented officers who can aid us with their expertise. Although the king still holds well-deserved grudges against some of these men, there may yet be a path to redemption for those whose only crime was being on the wrong team. The death of Antonio Oliveira Salazar. At 4:02 this morning, Jose Antonio Oliveira Salazar, one of the two caudillos of the Iberian Union and the leader of the Portuguese territories within the country, has been pronounced deceased by medical professionals. With his death passes over 3 decades of Portuguese history. Reportedly, the caudillo had died due to complications arising from a cerebral hemorrhaging, of which he was under surgery to correct. The nation of Portugal is already in mourning for their leader, as well as his former colleague Francisco Franco. Until the new successor is chosen for his position, Franco is the sole ruler of the Iberian Union, and experts believe this would be the perfect opportunity for Franco to become the sole ruler of Iberia, if he dares to do so. Un caudillo is down. Early industrial robotics. Done. Right. That's all of the industry done. So next we could start working on air doctrines. I'm not convinced that's important though. Land doctrine's already done. We could upgrade our artillery. We could also start researching just better guns for the tanks. Seeing as we're so reliant on our armor, I think that's probably a good idea. Mechanical aids for the tank crews can facilitate the loading and extraction of tank shells, reducing the tasks necessary to operate a tank in the middle of combat. Oh, we got some more shield maidens. Off you go. And our manpower is actually growing. Oh, right, because we got more recruitment factor. That makes sense. And we're actually getting a lot of military experience at the moment. So, one of the things that we were discussing quite seriously was replacing the motorized recon with IFV recon. We have IFVs, we're not using them for anything. This will increase breakthrough, this will increase damage, hard attack, decrease defense and air attack. It will decrease our speed? Huh. Okay, never mind. That's interesting. IFVs would actually slow us down quite dramatically. Or we could do main battle tank recon. That's another 50 breakthrough. That would also increase our armor by 6. I kind of like that idea. More tanks! More tanks to go with the tanks! Perfect. Maybe logistics companies. Yeah, that will reduce supply use. We'll do logistics. Our tank divisions are ridiculous. And then after this, we probably want to upgrade our Drujinia. How are we doing for artillery? Because that was one thing that we were toying with adding, was artillery. And we have plenty. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go to the Drujinia, and we're going to start adding line artillery. Do it. Do it now. Does it have anti-air section? No. Because we have an air force, our enemy doesn't have any. So anti-air is a bit pointless. At least the Divine Mandate. I don't know about the West Siberian Republic. Their industry is actually a little bit intimidating. They've got 5 tank divisions. I've only got 2. However, I think the quality of my infantry is better. And they actually have more military factories than we do, but we have so many more civilians. It's just that I've spent so long building civilian industries only to find they have not affected my GDP at all. Which is a bit annoying. Air Force. Do you have an Air Force? You don't have an Air Force. I'm the only one in Russia with an Air Force. Do you have an Air Force? You have an Air Force, but it's freaking tiny. No, it's not. Mine's bigger, though. I have 400. You have 200. So, Provisional Commissariat of Western Russia is the only one of the Russians that has an air force. West Siberian Republic and the Mandate don't. And while the West Siberian Republic does have more tanks, I'm willing to bet that mine are better. They might not even be main battle tanks. They might be like IFVs. Tank division, but we can't see what those tank divisions are. Oh no, they've got guard. They have 1 guard division, whereas we've got 8. So the quality of our infantry is better. And I'm also hoping, like, I've invested a lot into these tanks. They're 5 main battle tanks, and they're also 5 APCs. They might be like 1 tank. Oh yeah, manpower. That's a thing, which I should probably have been concerned about. Oh well, we're back to normal. And seeing as my economy is not producing anything, I'm going to decrease this completely. $500 million a year. There we go. And we're going to use our liquid reserves to pay off national debt. No longer get the effects of military austerity. We can do that again. Boom. We now have no civilian industry. At all. National focus completed. As King Rurik's army grew, it became clear he needed more men to lead them. Unfortunately, most of the royal court's candidates were already in charge of armies. He needed to look beyond his own trusted allies and look for candidates from elsewhere in central Siberia, specifically the former generals of Novosibirsk, Tomsk and the People's Revolutionary Council. If these men swear loyalty to the King Rurik, we can pardon them for their crimes in aiding the enemy regimes, and integrate them into our forces. Of course, some of King Rurik's advisors say that pardoning these former generals is too dangerous, and we can't trust them. Only a few advisors protest integrating the generals of Novosibirsk, whose ideology, or lack thereof, is the most compatible with our own. They would be the easiest to integrate, but some worry they may attempt to overthrow the king in favour of the military, like they did to the Central Siberian Republic. The generals of Tomsk are not to be rejected for fear of losing the military coup. Instead, we fear their ideology. The generals of Tomsk are feared to be radical Republicans, and a number of these advisors protest their integration for this reason. And then there are the generals from the People's Revolutionary Council. Almost the entire court believes them to be unforgivable, and many call for the socialists to be rounded up and exiled away from the realm. However, some argue that any of the generals who can portray their Marxist ideals enough to swear loyalty to King Rurik can be sufficiently trusted. All of the discussion matters not in the end. It is the king's decision to issue a royal pardon. Who will he choose? No pardons! None may stand against the king! Pardon the Novosibirsk generals with neither experience. Pardon the Tomsk generals. Republican can be forgiven. Pardon the communist generals. They have proven their worth. And Rurik is merciful. Pardon them all. We're not pardoning them all. We're not doing the socialists. Tomsk, maybe. Novosibirsk, probably. However, this does seem to be an opportunity for the Sobor to provide their guidance to the king. And so that is what shall happen.